All right, so we've coded up Hangman. We got an error right now, so let's kind of just comment that out to see where we're at. So we started creating this puzzle, if it will ever show up. Oh, that's not good. Get rid of all that. All right, so we had a really bad name property. That's why it's called parent values are being passed down. But we're just gonna show the word that we're passing down. So I know, all right, so this is what our state is right now. We've created an input, a user input component. We created a puzzles component and an incorrect guesses component. So what we've wired up so far is we are able to extract the value that the user guesses. So the user input component looks like this. We just have an input and a button. That when you click that button, we call submit guess, which is a handler inside of our user input component. We extract the value from our input value, and then we console log it just to track it. We call this function called props update guesses, and that's the proper way for child components to communicate with the parent component. So in this case, we need to pass a value back, in this case, user guess, which is what they entered in. We want to pass that back to the parents, and we're doing that via a prop value that is a function that the parent specified. And finally, we clear the input just to be nice to the user. So if we look at our parent has a function that the child is going to be calling with a letter or a guess that they made. We take that, and this is something I want to kind of highlight for people that weren't in the breakout room. Again, we should not update state values directly. So since we have an array keeping track of all the letters that were guessed, we can't simply just update that array directly, right? That is a no-no for updating state values. So the proper way to update like an array or a object or something that's non-primitive is you need to kind of spread it apart via the spread operator and create an actual copy. So again, to highlight this point, because it's very important, so I want to make sure everyone is super clear on this. If you're not, just please ask. If I do new something equals guess letters, understand for non-primitive types. So when we say non-primitive, we mean like arrays and objects and something that's not an integer or string or something simple. Doing something like this does not actually create a copy of it. It just creates a new variable pointing at the same exact data. So again, we can't simply do an assignment to like create a copy. We need to actually do something like this in JavaScript where we could spread it apart and reconstruct a brand new array. If you're not familiar with the syntax, that's okay. You can look it up. But what we're doing here is effectively creating a brand new copy of our original array. So again, we're doing that so that we can modify our temporary value, and then we could call our set state function to actually update that value so React is happy with that. All right, given that, we have incorrect guesses here, which takes in our puzzle word. So that's animals that we've hard coded here. Animals is our puzzle word. We are also passing down all of our guesses down to incorrect word, which then will compute which of those guesses are not in our puzzle word. So props.word is the puzzle word that we pass down. We're checking if each letter in the guesses is not in the word, then we append incorrect guesses, and then that's what we show in our record. So right now, what we have is if I guess an X, we see incorrect guess is X. If I guess a Z, we see Z. But if I guess an A, that does match the puzzle word. So this component will not show anything for that A. So if I click A, there's that nothing got added here, even though we're like doing stuff down here. All right, so that's where we left off, just to catch everyone up. The last thing we need to do is this puzzle component, right? We don't want to just show the answer to the user. That's not a fun game. This should be like underscores or blank values, and we want to fill them in as they correctly guess. Like if I guess an A, that should actually show me the A only then. So we were trying to solve that. So we had some of that started. This is that attempt here. So let's get through this, and that should be the last thing we're going to do. There's probably some other side things we want to do, like limit number of guesses, and maybe like not hard code a puzzle, but that's something I'll leave for you guys. Right here. All right, so uncommenting this. So our attempt here was to go through all of our guesses and then show only the filled in values. All right, so we're taking in guesses of the prop. Again, that's all the user guesses that have been submitted. We're going through our new puzzle, which is a copy of our state value, right? So we have an internal state value, which is the puzzle we show, versus the actual puzzle word, which is animals. So the puzzle is going to be underscores initially. Again, I would probably want to space this out, but just to keep it simple, it's going to have as many entries as our original word. So animals has 7 letters. So I've hard coded 7 underscores here without spaces. Question, Michael?
Ankur, weren't we limited to only having 2 state values?
We're limited to state values in our app component, in our top
Okay.
level. Yeah, but we could pass down additional things, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting that, but I guess we could do it without the state. Yeah, let's actually do it without the state then. So we have guesses, we have the puzzle. I guess we don't have that anymore. Let's see. So for every guess that's been submitted, we want to compare that against puzzle props that, let me call it props, I called it parent values that are being passed down. And that was word. So think about this. So we need to, for every word here, so let's say create a puzzle, let puzzle equal empty string. Let's reverse this actually. So I'm going to iterate over the word. So for let letter. So again, this word is the actual animal's word. It's the actual puzzle answer. So for letter of this whole thing, I really should use props, but I've committed to this, so I'm sticking with it. So we're going to iterate through every correct letter in the puzzle. And then we're going to see if parent values dot guesses dot contains. I'm going to let you know right off the bat, this is not the most efficient algorithm. I'm just doing this for quickness.
Includes.
Yes, I've made that mistake 3 times. Thank you. Includes, and then we want to check that letter. So we're going to check the guesses. If that includes the correct letter from the puzzle, then we're going to maybe like this. Guess is going to have to be uppercase. Did we uppercase that? I don't think we did. So we want cases to matter. So we'll do 2 uppercase here. That should make our lives easier. So everything's just going to be uppercase, despite what the user enters or doesn't enter. So we probably don't need to do 2 uppercase here. Letter and letter. Again, we've made it all uppercase elsewhere, so we're not going to do that here. All right, let's go to puzzle and finish this up. So we're going to check if this is included. So includes returns a true or false. If the letter exists in this array, it's going to return a true. Otherwise, it's going to return false. So if this is true, we can show the letter. So puzzle will get letter added to it. In fact, I'm going to change this up. So puzzle is we're gonna use a ternary because I love using ternaries, plus equals, and then we're gonna check this condition. If you guys are uncomfortable with ternaries, or if I've lost you with my logical change here, definitely ask. What I'm doing, I'm checking this. It's gonna be true or false. If it's true, I'm gonna do the question mark case, which is just append the letter. If it's false, I want to append an underscore. Maybe a space. So let's always add a space. So do puzzle plus equals space. There's going to be an extra space at the end. I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so I think this should achieve what we want. We're going through our target word, which is animals. We're checking if each letter, like A and then N and then I, if that's included in the user guesses, then we are free to show that letter as part of the puzzle output. Say puzzle output. We'll make that a little clearer. Okay, so if it's in the guesses, we're just going to show that letter. If it's not, we're going to show an underscore. Either case, we're going to spread it out with spaces. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. In that case, we don't need any of this garbage. We don't have a state value, so we decided not to have a state value. So we'll return that. So how is this actually going to work? Great question. It's a good thing to go over. So here we're calling a function. Now, a question you might have is, well, how does this component know to re-render since we don't have any state values that's depending on? Well, just to clarify, a component will re-render when any of its state values or prop values change. So in this case, word might be changing. In this case, it's not. It's always going to be animals. But guesses is going to be new every time. So we submit, a new guess. The guesses state value in our parent's going to change. We're passing down as props, and because of that, that's going to force this to re-render because guess is going to change that. All right, let's see if we have an error. We likely do. Puzzle is not defined. Line 17 of puzzle.js. That is, where's that? Line 16 of puzzle.js.
Your puzzle
yes.
output.
Thank you. All right, fingers crossed. That's all we have. New puzzle map is not a function. There's new puzzle map. This was puzzle.js 15. Not sure what that's referring to. All right, I don't know what that was, but all right, let's see if this actually works. So if I guess X, oops, that's incorrect. If I guess Z, that's incorrect. What if I guess M? Hey, an M showed up. Cool. If I guess an A, all right, both A showed up. Because again, this is inefficient. I just want to stress that. This is an inefficient algorithm because we're kind of going through this repeatedly. We're checking includes multiple times. So we get an A, we check A for the first A. When we get back to an A, we check it again. It's going through the same array and checking the same value. So we should be able to kind of make that more optimal, but we're not worried about optimizing at this point. We just want to get it working. So let's keep guessing. Let's guess, T. There's no T. There's an S maybe. There we go. So we can imagine if you fill it in, you probably want some check that when they guess all the letters, maybe give them like a nice prompt saying, hey, you solved the puzzle, do something to congratulate the user. Other functionality that we're not going to do right now is, we don't want to hard code animals, obviously. So that should be something that you should be easily able to kind of get random words. We do supply that for you here. So we have a list of random words. As an extended challenge, we ask you, hey, what if you use an API? There are APIs out there that just give you a random English word, or you might not be even limited to English. You do foreign words potentially also. Also, we probably want a way to like reset this game. Like, let's say I just give up, or I just want to start a new game. Like, if I solve this puzzle, I should have the ability to start a new game. So that's something you should consider. But we have the bare bones idea here. So the things that's like key takeaways I want to kind of talk about. Understand how components communicate. So props are the way you pass values from a parent down to a child. You can also pass a prop as a function pointer, which lets the child effectively communicate with the parent. That's like the design way to do it, where you provide a function that the child can call whenever it wants to, and then the parent can get a value back. In this case, we're getting a letter back from our user input. All right, and then state values. Generally speaking, the reason we have state values in our app is because we need to pass down these, kind of update these values from the child or the user input, right? User input's updating, guest letters, state value. We don't want to have guest letters only in that input because we need to use guest letters to pass it down to puzzle and incorrect guesses. As we talked about before, sibling components cannot talk to each other directly. So user input can't simply say, hey, I have new guesses for you, puzzle, why don't you, deal with that? The parent has to get involved here because that's just how React is designed, that we communicate through the parent down to the child again. So user input talks to the parent talks back to puzzle and incorrect guesses whenever one of these values change. Any questions on what we covered up here or anything that I mentioned along the way?
Can I see incorrect guesses component real
Absolutely.
quick? Okay, I got it.
Yep, so you're gonna have to probably fiddle with logic. Again, I would definitely want you guys to kind of add some more creativity here, like, maybe add some coloring here, maybe, make this look a little better, add some more functionality, like add a random word, maybe a difficulty level. So we've not implemented a limiting number of guesses, right? I could keep guessing all day long. I can guess the same letter again. There's nothing in our logic right now that says, that prevents the user from guessing the same letter. So that's something that you usually want to see. So that's stuff that we can still add on here, but in the interest of time, we're not going to get to that. Guillermo, and
how did you clear the input on the button click? I was having trouble with that with mine.
Yeah, happy to show that. So we were able to get the input elements by using get element by ID. We simply set the value back to empty string after we extract the value. So again, this is a object-oriented representation of the input element from our document. So we have access to value or ID or anything else we want to set, we have the ability to set it here. Cool. All right, so that was our kind of expedited summary of creating Hangman. Hopefully you guys kind of will get encouraged to tackle the challenge if you have not started, or even if you started and got stuck, hopefully you get some ideas on how to maybe structure your particular project to get it working. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here. Thank you guys